Hello everyone, welcome to my very first Ignite presentation. My goal here is to share with you what I believe are the most important assessment strategies for helping students to learn. A great deal of what I've learned should be credited to Jan Chapuis and her book, 7 Strategies of Assessment for Learning. I highly recommend this text if you have a desire to look at student assessment in a different way. Now, it seems pretty clear to me that giving students clear learning targets at the very beginning of a lesson sets students on the right path and in the right mindset to produce quality work. It's critical that the language used in our learning targets is in student-friendly terms, so there's no confusion on students' expectations and at what level they are expected to perform. Also, learning targets, you'll see, is not a one-size-fits-all situation. Targets and the means by which students will be assessed should be closely aligned. Teachers need to look very closely at what they want students to be able to do and plan assessment with that in mind. It's my belief that the more you can get students involved in self-assessment, the more likely the students will produce high-quality work and hit their learning target. I'll talk a bit more about this later. Showing students strong, average, and weak examples of student work is a great way to show students the level of quality that is expected of them. Allowing students to evaluate anonymous examples and possibly use a rubric helps students become very well acquainted with the learning target. Feedback is an essential part of our learning process. Feedback given during learning is referred to as formative assessment. Feedback done well enhances students' motivation, and it's vital that teachers show students how much they value the students' effort, and not just the product of their work. Students need to realize that their effort will result in success. Since I'm talking about formative assessment, the feedback students receive should not only identify what they did well, but also where they improved, and give them enough information to know what to do next. Giving and receiving feedback takes time, and this time must be built into the lesson, along with time for students to take action, whether it be time for additional practice, reteaching a lesson, conducting self-assessment, or planning for the next step. As mentioned earlier, another important strategy for learning is self-assessment. Self-assessment is not an obvious process for most students. They need to be taught how to do it with accuracy and consistency. It is difficult to get students to look at their own work in objective terms. They need to be taught to understand that the quality of their completed assignments depends on their ability to analyze and modify the results. Students' learning is often not a direct path, and not everyone learns at the same trajectory. Learning is unpredictable and doesn't always allow for the normal flow of instruction, learning, final assessment. Teachers need to be present mentally so they can diagnose whether students have flaws in their reasoning or misconceptions that need to be changed. If the teachers are aware of a student that has needs, they'll be able to figure out the next step for that student. Something else to consider is design of assessment, specifically multiple choice questions. Selecting good wrong answer choices, known as distractors, is crucial in diagnosing flaws in student understanding. Another important strategy is to include focused practice with feedback. As mentioned earlier, time for practice should be built into the lesson. Practice must be meaningful and connected to the learning target. It's also better if students receive several short opportunities to practice rather than one long practice session. As students are practicing, teachers must show students that they have faith in their students' effort. and that it will translate into student success. Sometimes teachers underestimate the power of the belief in students. As I conclude, I offer a piece of advice. Don't ever forget what it was like to be a student. Show interest and compassion in your students as they grow as learners. Thank you, and have a wonderful school year.